introduction. If you've been here, you've seen him. He is the president of the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin. His name is Leland Mitchell.
Now, we have these so-called job creators in the United States of America and here in the state of Wisconsin. Back in the 19th century, they called them robber barons. But now we call them job creators. At what time do we transcend from calling them rich and wealthy, which is nothing wrong with being rich and wealthy, but now we call them job creators. At what time do firefighters, nurses, teachers, janitors, snowplow drivers become the problem? They don't want to talk about the real problem. Deregulation of banking, Wall Street. We have to stand up, though. We have to stand up and make our voices heard like MLK did back in the day. Labor needs to get back into communities and build coalitions that can never be broken again. Build coalitions between faith, union, and community that can never be broken again, because the people are down right now, but we are not out. This is a fight they wanted. This is a fight they started. But if it's a fight they want, it's a fight they're going to get. And in the spirit of Dr. King, I'm talking about a peaceful fight, a fight where we bring everything to the table. We need jobs, we need justice, and we need a society that is just for all to succeed. I see it as our calling. No, I see it as our duty for civil rights, labor rights, and American politics to join together to make this a better place for all, not just a select few. We have the ability to accomplish it, and our state has the ability to provide it. Solidarity, brothers and sisters, I love you all.
A year ago on this day, Scott Walker believed that he could roll over not just 50 years of labor rights in Wisconsin, but 150 years of Wisconsin leading this nation as a tribune and as a light shining on the northern tier for economic and social justice. Louis Brandeis said, Wisconsin is America's laboratory of democracy. That this is the state that shows the rest of the republic how to do things right. That is what Scott Walker attacked.
Where were we 1 year ago? Walker was telling our school teachers that they were overpaid, that they didn't deserve protections, forgetting that my learning conditions are the teachers' working conditions, and that, you know, as a student, I have a vested interest in making sure my teachers have a right to collective bargaining, have a right to a union, have a right to a good wage. You know, teachers are overpaid. I looked it up. My high school teacher's starting salary was $30,000 a year. That is shameful. You know, those teachers, you know, make sure that our next generation grow up to know what they're doing, grow up to know how to participate in democracy. And I am so thankful that I had teachers that taught me that and did not care how much they got paid. You know, the university has debated whether they had to cut or not dairy sciences. What is that? Scott Walker, you know, in his budget bill, attacked local breweries. He attacked our dairy science program. That's no Wisconsinite. Right. Back in the day when my parents were talking about, oh, well, I work to pay off college. You can't do that anymore today. You know, student workers at UW-Madison, our average salary is $8.50 an hour. If we try to pay off tuition, we would be working over 60 hours a week. That's impossible. You know what we need? We need a living wage. We need a union. That's what student workers need. We know that the labor movement and the student movement are intertwined, and we know that we need to stick together and fight it out, and that's what we're doing today. So thank you all for coming out. Solidarity, sisters and brothers.
You know, there are Wisconsin expats all over the world, and they deserve a day in which wherever they are, they can raise a glass to Wisconsin. So this is Wisconsin Day.
He thought in 6 weeks he could ensconce these radical right-wing changes. He thought in 6 months we would forget. Governor Walker, not in 60 years will we forget. And that's why, repeat after me, Governor Walker, it's time for you to go. It seems like at every twist and turn, we find new, repressive, backward, extreme policies. This week alone we learned of secret oaths that people took. Hard to imagine, right? On redistricting, you're right to be represented. equitably, fairly, amongst the community of interest. And in this newest scandal, amongst many, he's asked the legislators on the Republican side to ignore the public interest. He's told them, look at what's in the private documents, not in the baloney they intended to feed to the public. It's a culture of corruption that's developing. And that's why, Governor Walker, it's time for you to go. Just in the last month, he instituted something I never thought I would see a public official anywhere in America, much less in Wisconsin, put forward. He tried to sneak it in, like he does so often, with something he called the capital access policy. Yeah! But what it really was perhaps the biggest assault ever on the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and the Wisconsin Constitution. Can you imagine? He wanted to make it so you couldn't pass out flyers on the Capitol Square without a permit. Never in America did I think a public official would go to that extreme. And that's why, Governor Walker, it's time for you to go. We want to reward workers and challenge workers and enrich workers. That's the Wisconsin way. We want to bring forward green energy solutions that can help to power our plants and our homes. We want to bring the best of research from the bench to the bedside of patients, from the laboratories to the manufacturing floors. We want to move Wisconsin forward to take the brilliance of our university system and empower it, not reduce its budget. We want to make sure that this once again is a state with a proud Badger heritage of the people, by the people, for the people. And Governor Walker, it's time for you to vote. Thank you all.
And so our next speaker, Brenda Konkel, is going to come up here and talk to you about the fight for protections for tenants, past and present, but certainly into the future. So Brenda Konkel.
This bill would say that if a tenant or a family member or somebody who's on a guest or somebody who they are associated with commits any crime in the rental unit or on the landlord's property, you can be evicted with 5 days notice and you have no right to cure. And if you try to fight it, all they have to do is they have to prove that it's alleged that you did something. You didn't have to actually do it, it just has to be alleged that you did it. So you might think, no big deal, I'm not a criminal, it's not going to affect me. However, the way they define criminal activity, it's anything that the state can fine you for and anything that a local town or county or municipality would pass. So the parking ticket I'm probably getting right now could get me evicted. It could be because you didn't license your cat. The law is written so broadly that anybody could be evicted with a 5-day notice because you allegedly did something. And that's what it's called right now, it's LRB 2098.
People are talking not only about where we've been, but as Peter Barca was doing earlier, where we're going, what the next step is, what the next struggle is. And in that vein, please welcome the field coordinator for the Wisconsin Wave, Adam Porton.
Workers' rights are under attack. What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Voting rights are under attack. What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Voting rights. Voting rights are under attack. And I want people to imagine for a moment the temerity of these people. They're willing to cut hundreds of millions from education, from healthcare, from social services, to bust unions. These are matters of life and death. People's healthcare are matters of life and death. Food stamps and the other kinds of public assistance are matters of life and death. And these people do not care. And if these people don't care about issues of life or death, do you think they would have any qualms about the sanctity of a free and fair election? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I woke up last night after a nightmare. I pictured several months down the road. It was election day. There was a recall election. It was election night. It was a close race. Results were coming in. And what was this? Waukesha County's clerk was withholding totals. No one could have predicted it. What was this? The margin of victory is just enough to prevent a publicly funded recount. What's this? Ballot bags have gone untracked. Irregularities in the machines have been discovered. Serious violations and suppression going on throughout the state. Voter ID and other forms of intimidation. And then the next day, nothing happened. nothing happened. And that was my neighbor, and I woke up and I said, something's got to happen. Something has to happen. Will you promise me right now that something will happen that next day? We are prepared to mobilize in the same way we mobilize in defense of workers' rights and student rights, to mobilize in defense of voting rights. Because without this effort, all the other money and all the other work that's going to go into these elections could be for nothing. And so the way I think about it is insurance. It's insurance that this movement will continue and that our elections will continue to be the cornerstone of our democracy, something that unfortunately we still cannot say it is.
It takes an entire community to take a stand. Right. And this was the solidarity we felt last February and March. It wasn't just the workers who were losing their collective bargaining rights, or the people who were losing valuable social services who came out to stand up against the budget repair bill. It was everybody. We worked together to keep hundreds of people fed in the Capitol for 17 nights. We mobilized thousands for marches and actions across the state. We organized discussions and teach-ins, and we built our own media to communicate it all to the world. Right. So as we reflect on the last 100 years, let's remember the ambition of the idea's founders. Let's take our state back for the betterment of all Wisconsin. And we must be fierce in this act. Bob LaFollette himself said, "Men must be aggressive for what is right if the government is to be saved from men who are aggressive for what is wrong." So as we enter the next 100 years, let's get back on track.
Please welcome John Peck of the family firm Defenders.
Some of you may remember Shakespeare talking about something being rotten in the state of Denmark. Well, there is something rotten in the state of Wisconsin, and that's because we have Velveeta masquerading as cheddar in this building. That's why it's stinking so bad. That's why it stinks to high heaven. It's time to kick out the rotten Velveeta and get back a real cheddar-head governor, right?
Right, yeah.
We're in a state of crisis in this state. The whole country is. And how did that happen? And people, I was getting all these phone calls. Why are farmers coming down to the Capitol? Why are they delivering food to the occupation? Why are they planning to bring their tractors down there? Who's paying them to do that? Who's duping them? I'm going, what are you talking about? Are you saying farmers are too stupid? That they don't care about their neighbors? That they don't care about each other? That they don't think that something's wrong in this state? That they don't identify with workers? Who do you think farmers are? We're in all this together. That's right. I mean, when they attack Badger Care, they're attacking farmers. 1 in 7 farmers depends on Badger Care, right? When they attack schools, who do you think goes to those rural schools? Kids. Farmers. Those are farmers' kids. Their neighbors are buying their food from the farmers, right? That CSA farmer is selling to teachers in his community, right? We're all in this together. Who's being foreclosed on? It's not just people here. That's right. Banks are foreclosing on farmers left and right across the state. There's land grabbing going on, right? Yeah. Facilitated by someone in this building and his corporate crony friends, right? That's right. He even gave a subsidy for factory farms. I couldn't believe it. Like, oh, we can't afford all this stuff in the budget. Hack, hack, hack. He gave a $13 million tax break to 220 factory farmers in the state. I work with farmers. Some of the farmer members in our group are Republicans. Some are libertarians. Some are independents. Some are Green Party people. It doesn't matter to me what they are. But one thing, and they may disagree on certain issues, but one thing they do agree on is that they can see a pile of crap when they see it. And that is what we've been dished out by this governor, and they're not going to put up with that anymore. That's right.